Welcome to Elselah Books Podcast. Today, we're jumping right into a fascinating ancient text that speaks absolute volumes about justice, purity, and the incredibly heavy weight of carrying a divine message, the Book of Amos. This explainer is all about a profound, ancient call for pure justice that still deeply resonates with us today. It's actually amazing to realize that the themes we are unpacking originate from the very first prophetic book in the Bible to ever be formally written down. Okay, let's dive straight into this. We'll be looking at Amos the burden bearer, the judgments on the surrounding nations, specific warnings and calamities, his prophetic visions, and finally the central message.
Section 1. Amos the burden bearer.
Now, you might be wondering about the name itself. Amos comes directly from the Hebrew word Amos, which literally translates to burden bearer. And honestly, that's no coincidence. It perfectly foreshadows the incredibly heavy, difficult messages he was called to deliver. He was carrying the literal weight of prophecy. What makes his story so captivating is that he was an entirely unlikely prophet. We're not talking about a religious elite here. Amos was just an everyday worker, a shepherd from Tekoa, roughly 12 miles from Jerusalem, and a dresser of sycamore fig trees. He was just living a normal agricultural life until God called him to do something extraordinary. To put this into historical perspective, we're looking at roughly 755 BC. So Amos was stepping onto the scene during the reigns of King Uzziah in Judea and King Jeroboam in Israel. It's fascinating because he was prophesying at the exact same time as heavy hitters like Isaiah and Hosea. In complete obedience, he bravely traveled from Judea all the way up into Israel to deliver his message. Now, here's a quick fact for you. 30. This text is actually the 30th book in the Old Testament, sitting right there as the second of the minor prophets. As I mentioned, it's the very first prophetic book written down. It's incredibly concise, containing just 9 chapters and exactly 146 verses. Yet its historical and theological weight is absolutely immense. Section 2. Judgments on the Nations. The book opens up with a wide, sweeping look at the geopolitical landscape of the time. In Chapter 1, Amos lays out the Lord's judgments on Israel's neighbors. We're seeing severe punishments declared against Damascus, Gaza, Edom, and Ammon because of their profound sins. Amos is basically drawing this giant circle of divine judgment all around the region. But then, as we move into Chapter 2, the focus tightens up dramatically. The punishment expands to include Moab, and then it hits much closer to home. First Judah, and finally Israel itself. The message Amos is bringing is crystal clear here. Absolutely no one in the region gets a free pass when it comes to the consequences of their actions. Section 3. Warnings and Calamities. Moving into chapters 3 and 4, the tone gets incredibly direct and uncompromising. This is the Lord's word specifically against Israel, acting as a direct witness against their behavior. Amos doesn't hold back at all. He meticulously documents their sins and the actual overthrow that ultimately befell them because they strayed so far off the path. Then, as we hit chapters 5 and 6, things shift from direct legal accusations into deep, profound sorrow. We see heavy laments directed at Israel's descendants and a whole series of woes. These chapters are essentially foretelling the severe, devastating calamities that are barreling toward the people. Section 4. Prophetic Visions of Amos. Let's see how this builds across the final 3 chapters, because the imagery gets really vivid here. In Chapter 7, Amos experiences these terrifying visions of locusts, total destruction by fire, and a dark prophecy of slavery. Then, in Chapter 8, the images shifts to a basket of ripe fruit, symbolizing that the time is totally ripe for judgment. Finally, in Chapter 9, he sees the Lord standing by the altar with this beautifully complex decree, destroying, yes, but ultimately promising to restore Israel. Section 5. The Central Message. And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute core of Amos's theology. God places his own people, Israel and Judah, on the exact same scales as the surrounding nations. Both sides are held to the exact same standard of purity. There is no special exemption for Israel when it comes to judgment for idolatry and injustice. It all really boils down to this incredibly uncompromising standard. The nation that represents the Lord must be made completely pure of anything or anyone that profanes the name of God. His name has to be exalted above absolutely everything else, totally free from hypocrisy or injustice. So, what does this all mean for us? If God expects that exact same purity from all nations, how does that change the way we view our own responsibilities today? It really forces us to look inward, right? To make sure our own daily actions align with the high standards of justice and purity that this burden bearer preached thousands of years ago. Thank you for listening, and do subscribe to our channel for more. Try to read this from Bible and be blessed.